What is good, peasants? JB back here today, and you know what we're doing. We're doing a tier list post Comfey release slash post January patch, talking about all the new stuff going on within Unite, and you know, giving my thoughts and opinions on where things stand in the current meta of the game, if you will. So that being said, this might be one of my hottest tier lists yet. So if you enjoy just some idiot giving horrible opinions, click subscribe. Pretty close to 1400 would be a pretty cool number to hit. But that being said, let's go ahead and hop straight on in. Let's start off with all-arounders. I feel like I haven't started off with all-arounders before. I don't know, maybe I have, who cares? All right, so Aegislash. I think Aegislash is a pretty good Pokemon. Oh, I guess we should go over there. So we have our God tier, which I don't know how many things are going to be in the God tier. Don't really need to explain that. Silly Goose is S tier, Astonishing is A tier. Couldn't think of anything funny for this tier, so it's A minus B plus. Thanos is the B tier, perfectly balanced as all things should be. Can you not? Pokemon that kind of suck. And then the D tier is going to be the don't / these Pokemon need buffs tier. This is where bad things go, and some things I put in that tier might not necessarily bad, just something that I might think really needs a buff. So yeah, there are the tiers explained, and now we can hop on into our friendly sword Aegislash. I honestly don't love where Aegislash is right now. I think a lot of that boils down to the amount of CC in the game. There's just so much of it. I've tried messing around with the potion build some, and you do feel a little bit tankier, but man, does getting stunned hurt on a Pokemon like that. And again, that goes back to the full heal nerf and the amount of CC in the game, but the character does still do fairly solid damage. As much as I hate to admit it, Shadow Claw is okay, but Sacred Sword and Wide Guard are still both very good moves, decent Unite move. I think it's borderline B plus for me, but I'm gonna leave it in Thanos for now. It could, you know, potentially move up, but I don't know. It does feel a little bit underwhelming, especially compared to some other all-arounders that we'll get to in a little bit. Speaking of, I do think Azumarill is just slightly ahead of Aegislash for a few reasons. One, basically being just that it evolves at level 4 and doesn't have to worry about a second evolution. That's just a big plus. And then it has way better sustain with Aquatel. It's just much more consistent healing. Water Pulse Plus is still very good. They nerfed it a little while back, and it still feels really solid. You get a lot of value out of stacking on this character. You get a lot of value out of an energy amp on this character. You're spamming your Unite move a lot. I believe it might have the fastest Unite charge time out of all-arounders now. It's that or Zard. Either way, I think Oz is in a fairly solid spot, and it's a pretty damn good Pokemon. All right, Buzzwole. Buzzy, 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 buzz, buzz, Buzzwole. So this is a character that I think other people like a lot more than I do. I don't think the character is that good. I think it has one of the better early games in Unite. I think it's a pretty damn solid Pokemon early in lane and has an amazing level 5. It has a really, really good first 5 to 6 minutes of the game, but man, does it fall off once other characters start getting their second moves. Like once it starts getting to like the level 11 to 13 range of a game, Buzzwole just doesn't have the same kind of impact, at least for me personally. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, its Unite move is bad. Well, it's really good when it hits, but it never hits. I don't know. I think Buzzwole's good, but not amazing. It's borderline. It's in the same range for me. I do think it's better than Aegislash, but I usually don't rank them within tiers because that's just a lot of work. But I don't know if I want to put it on the same. I'm going to put it on the same level as Azu, because I do feel like Azu provides more value throughout a game. Buzzwole, there is something to be said for having a very, very good early game, which Buzzwole does in fact have a very, very good early game. So I'll put it A minus B plus. Charizard. Charizard's bad. Charizard is in a very, very, very bad spot right now. They took away its true damage. They nerfed its Unite move. It's just not good. There's no reason to really play Charizard at the moment. Unite move feels like it does no damage now. Flare Blitz is a move that exists. Fire Punch is a move that exists. The movement speed from Flamethrower is still cool. Fire Blast is a move that exists. I don't know. Charizard is just a Pokemon that exists. I get why what they were going for with the nerf. You know, making its Unite move was and still is a very solid Unite move, but it was one of the best in the game. That was the best thing about Charizard by far. And they took that away from it, and it's just sort of existing. I don't know. I don't think the character is good. Speaking of characters, I'm not in love with Dragonite. I'm going to put Dragonite B tier. I had it in the needs buffs tier previously, and then it, you know, showed up in I believe some of the EU tournaments, or maybe it was just Adesu who popped off with it in Unite Rivals. But there is still something to the character. We are sort of in a little bit of a secure meta, but I just don't think Hyper Beam is as good as secure as some other moves in the game that we'll get to a little bit later. But I do think Dragonite is fine. It's just honestly, I think it's probably closer to C in my opinion. It's because, like, yeah, Hyper Beam's cool. It's really good. Dragonite is really good. But I don't know, would you rather have that or Lucario or Urshifu or any number of other things? Like, I don't know. And if this is something I always talk about when we do tier lists and I get to Dragonite. Outrage is one of the worst moves in the game. Extreme Speed is even worse. Outrage is terrible. If you want to play a brawly, you know, up in your face, melee style all-arounder, play any other all-arounder and your move doesn't stun you. Like, Outrage is bad. I'm tired of discussing this, but there's always going to be someone like, oh, Outrage bad, this guy's an idiot. No, I actually quite know what I'm talking about, believe it or not. And Outrage is terrible. Probably have moved that down sooner, my bad. Let's go ahead and talk about, who do we want to talk about next? Garchomp. Garchomp, one of my favorite characters to play in all of Unite. And am I biased? No, I'm not. I think Garchomp is actually pretty good right now. Has a really solid early game. Rapid Fire Scarf has been an absolute game changer for this Pokemon. And I think it's pretty damn solid. You have a lot of sustain on this character. You are very weak to stuns, but you have a really solid early game. And where this character struggles is ironically in the mid game. Like, getting from Gabite to Garchomp can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes, but Garchomp itself is pretty good. Dragon combo is great, pretty solid Unite move, very good for either getting out of a sticky situation or deleting a squishy if you really need to. Just diving backlines, kidnapping carries, or just, I don't know. It's a pretty good Pokemon. I think Garchomp's decent. It's honestly probably closer to B, but I'm going to give Garchomp a benefit of the doubt because it's my tier list. Screw you. Lucario. Lucario is always good, man. Lucario is always good. I don't think it's broken at the moment, but I do think it's honestly kind of underrated. It doesn't see a ton of play, but when you do see Lucario, it's always still pretty damn solid. Like, E-Speed still very good. Power Up Punch is a great secure. Obviously, it's nah, I can't justify that. But Power Punch is still good secure. Pretty good Unite move. Close Combat's still good. Bone Rush is still good. Everything about Lucario is still good. Yeah, no, it's A tier. It's just it's not as good of a secure as, you know, the Bear, but it's still, you know, good. And we're not really comparing that. I'm comparing the rest of its kit. I think Lucario is fine. I think it's really, really solid. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it A tier, but potentially wanting to move it down a little bit. All right. Machamp. I think Machamp's B. I think it's fine, but I think some of these other characters just get a little bit more value in certain areas of the game. It does feel a little bit harder to stack these days for some reason. I think, you know, solo queue players have finally learned that, oh, maybe we shouldn't just let these guys stack 6 times at the beginning of the game. It's probably pretty bad for us if we let them do that. And now it feels kind of impossible to stack a lot of games, at least for me. So Machamp loses a lot of value if you don't do that. And you can obviously get away with running crit builds, but I'm not a huge fan of that personally because it relies too much on actually getting crits. And, you know, that's the same sort of problem Absol has, where if you don't crit, you're not really doing much with Crush Chop, which is good. Like, it's fine. You can obviously combine the two, but again, it is what it is. I think Machamp is okay. Good Unite move. Submission is an absolute troll build. Other than that, everything about the character is just decent to below average, so I think it's fine there. Scizor and Scyther. So we're getting into some Pokemon that received some nerfs recently, and when I say nerfs very lightly. So Sword Stance got a very minor tweak to its cooldown. It's a second longer, and it lost about 3% damage increase on the, or 3% increase on its damage, I guess. Increase. I have to say increase twice there. Yeah, Sword Stance was very slightly nerfed. Double Hit was already good on both of these Pokemon, so it's not a huge loss. Obviously, Sword Stance is still better on Scizor, I believe. But speaking of Scizor, I think it's still a borderline A tier Pokemon. I'm gonna go ahead and knock it down slightly to A- B+. It's probably better than everything here, but again, we don't rank them within the tiers because that would just take too long. I do think it's probably the best Pokemon in this tier, though. It just has such good sustain, so I'm willing to leave it there. You don't need to stack on this Pokemon either. You can get away with running something like a Razor Claw, a Weakness Policy, and a Focus Band and be fine. Obviously, stacking on this character is still phenomenal. Its Unite move is bad, but usable. But yeah, just the sustain this thing provides is pretty damn solid, so I'm willing to leave it in A- B+. And then Scyther. They didn't nerf this Pokemon at all. Still broken. Still very, very good. It's incredibly strong, so remains in the ol' S tier. All right, next up we have Zarina. Zarina, one of my favorite characters to play. Love me some Zarina, but I think it's honestly kind of, while it's usually up here and very comparable to Scizor, I think it honestly needs to be knocked down a little bit, just because of the defense nerf it received not too long ago is starting to make it feel a little bit squishy, which is not something I ever thought I'd say with Zarina, but it does feel really squishy. You can definitely still pop off with this character, and it's definitely still really good. It's just when you compare it directly to something like Scizor, you just can't match the level of sustain and bulk. So for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and knock Zarina down just a smidge. It's you know, still right there. Again, I think it's way better than either of these two Pokemon, but again, not ranking them within tiers because I don't want to be here all day. Next up, Tyranitar. Tyranitar is a weird one because much like other Pokemon we've already discussed, their mid to late games or early games, Tyranitar has probably the worst first 5 minutes of any character, but has maybe the best end game of any character. It's probably the best late game character. It's just so tanky, so unkillable, does just such great damage. One of the best Pokemon you could possibly just throw a pocket support on and just not die. Tyranitar is great at that. So I do think it's very good, and I'm willing to give it A tier because when you are able to get your experience and get ahead on this character, I do think it is still phenomenal. So I'm willing to go ahead and put it in the A tier. So next up, we have Urshifu. So I have two Urshifus here. This is obviously not the tier they're going in. So the one looking this way, we'll just go left and right. So the left one is going to be Dark Bear, and the right one is going to be Water Bear. Dark Bear, still very good, leaving it in S tier. Still has the best secure in the game. It did lose a little bit in way of damage reduction, but still very strong, very tanky, very bulky when you are charging your Wicked Blow. And it did receive a Unite move nerf in that you can't hit multiple people with it when you don't, you know, use the push, which is a bit of a game changer, but it doesn't change the fact that it still has the absolute best secure in the game, and Wicked Blow's damage did not get changed at all, and it is still absolutely absurd. I'm willing to admit, though I did have this character in B tier in my last tier list, I was absolutely wrong about it. I learned how to play it, you know, about a week after that tier list, and yeah, I will eat my words. I was wrong. Urshifu, Dark Bear broken. Dark Bear very good. All right, I do still think it is quite terrible against range, though. You won't change my mind. You will not win a 1v1 against a good Cinderace or a Decidueye on that character, but I digress. It still has its moments where it can be absolutely useless if you can't get in range to hit your Wicked Blow, but again, I digress. It's broken. All right, Water Bear. Water Bear may be the biggest winner of this patch. I think Water Bear, while it was previously one of the worst Pokemon in the game, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It's maybe the most fun character to play for me right now personally. I absolutely love playing Water Bear. Its Unite move is the only thing holding it back. I think its Unite move is maybe the worst in the game. It's up there for sure. Urshifu Unite is Water Bear Unite is absolutely terrible. It gets canceled by everything. If it just wasn't cancelable, like if, you know, just any sort of anything didn't break it, it'd be fine, but even then it still wouldn't be good. But you do still have just ridiculous cooldowns on this character with your Surging Strikes. It's so good, so fun. You are able to do just a lot of damage and constantly have uptime on your moves. Very fun, very good Pokemon, very good changes. Love it a lot. All right, let's move on to, let's get these speedsters out of the way. Absol, it's always decent. Better laner than jungler, but still fine. The pursuit builds are cool. I think it's kind of a troll, honestly, but it's not bad. You don't need Drain Cone on it. As fun as that build is, you just don't need it. You should probably just go for more damage, honestly, but it's a fine Pokemon. We'll put it in A- B+. Other speedsters, Dodrio, still borderline S for me. Yeah, it's still insane. This Pokemon is just, it's up there with Sableye in terms of most unpunishable Pokemon. So yeah, I think the Dodrio is still very good, so we'll leave it in S tier. It maybe is closer to A, but I don't know. You can't really punish this character. It does really good damage. It's a pretty solid Unite move. Yeah, all of its moves are good right now, so yeah, it's Dodrio's good. Dodrio's very good. Speedster. Gengar I think is kind of bad, honestly, but like it's not at the same time. I'm willing to put Gengar in B tier. And some of the reasons Gengar is bad and you don't see a lot of Gengar being played is because of so many people being forced to run full heal and cleanses and stuff like that. And, you know, just such high burst damage in the game where if you don't land your cooldowns and one-shot something, you're kind of useless on Gengar. It's really not that the character is bad, because in the right matchups, Gengar can still solo complete teams by itself. Like, it's still very good into certain matchups. But if you run into something like an Urshifu and you're not one-shotting it, you're done. If you know, miss your cooldown on a Scyther, you're dead. you literally just are basically hard countered by Dodrio running agility, so that's a thing. I don't know, like, just to name some of the Pokemon up here, like Gengar's fine. Like if you catch like, I don't know, a Pikachu or something, or a Decidueye, you're still dominant, but I don't know, it's very matchup dependent is one way to word it. Talonflame, I believe, is going to be our next speedster. Yeah, Talonflame, it's terrible, don't play it. It's probably closer to C, but if you've been around the channel for a while, you know I have a just burning hatred for the player base of this character. I truly believe that there is no worse player base in Unite than Talonflame players. They're the most useless solo queue teammates you could ever have. So for that reason, I'm putting the character D. It's more on the player base than anything. If you're good with Talonflame and you are actually a participant in team fights and not just focusing on scoring and not using all of your cooldowns to run away after failing to score with 5 people alive, then yeah, I'm sure you can get some value out of the Pokemon, but it's been literally months since I've seen a Talonflame do more than 40k damage, so I don't know. It's probably not the character, it's the player base, but again, I never see even remotely decent Talonflame players, so E tier, bad Pokemon. Zeraora. Zeraora is a controversial one. I'm gonna put it C tier for a couple of reasons. Mostly just being that you never see the character, but I don't think the character needs buffs. I guess it does, maybe a little bit to, I don't know. I don't want the way it is right now. I don't want it to be given the level up change that everyone seems to talk about on Zeraora. I don't want that, because if you give it that with the way Discharge is right now, or the way Wild Charge is right now, it shoots up to S tier. It'll be very good if it gets, you know, the changes to that now. But at the same time, those moves kind of suck because you get them a level early or a level later. I don't know, man. It's a tough one because it feels like, you know, getting Volt Switch at level 5 wouldn't be too bad. Spark at level 5 would be ridiculous. You'd have to nerf Spark. You know, Discharge or Wild Charge would be fine at level 7. But I don't know. It feels like you'd have to take a step forward while also taking a step back with this Pokemon to buff it. But at the same time, it's still okay. Like, I still think Wild Charge is one of the most overpowered moves in this game. Like, just the Pokemon becoming completely untargetable to all damage, all CC, all everything is just frankly stupid. And the amount of damage it does is annoying as hell. But I know that doesn't really change the fact that the character isn't exactly good. So I don't know. It's in a weird spot for me. If you disagree with this one, that's fine, but I don't think the character's very good. Zoroark. Zoroark might be one of the highest skill ceiling Pokemon in the entire game. I think a good Zoroark is phenomenal, as we've seen in the tournaments. We saw in Unite Rivals, both EU and NA were bringing out some Faint Attack Zoroark. It's really good at closing the distance on something like a Mew or just any range attacker and just deleting squishies. Like, it's very good at that. The problem is, not everyone is a pro player and most people suck at Zoroark. So it's a tough one. I'll put a B tier because it does have value as something that can really easily close range on something and delete a squishy. Like, it does have value in that. It's probably closer to C. Yeah. I just think it's a character that in the right hands and in the right matchup can be very good, but if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to combo this character, you're gonna be just feeding your brains out the entire game. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not willing to go much higher than C. I don't think it's on par with Gengar. I really don't. I think it's better than Zeraora. That's not really saying much. I'll put it B. No. Yeah. I'll leave it C. I'm leaving it C. It could be B. It doesn't really matter. We're splitting hairs at that point. Let's do defenders next. Blastoise. Blasty boy. I think Blastoise is pretty damn good. It's borderline A tier for me, but I'm gonna leave it out of A tier for a couple of reasons. One of those being just level 9 evos are hard to come by. Nah, that's a bad take. I'm putting Blastoise A. It's good. All of its moves are good. Rapid Spin, Water Spout still does a lot of damage. Hydro Pump, Surf, very good crowd control. Still one of the best Unite moves in the game. Yeah, Blastoise is A tier. It can be hard to get levels on sometimes, and you know that's just a thing you'll have to deal with a lot of Pokemon in the game. So I don't know. I think Blastoise is a very solid Pokemon and still in a pretty good place. Crustle. It's up there with Talonflame amongst worst player bases, but honestly, I do see more Crustles being useful than Talons. So, and I do think Executor is quite good. Executor is very good. I think Stealth Rocks are okay. Shell Smash is still Shell Smash. It's a very, very, very good Unite move. I think one of the better Unite moves in the game, honestly. I still just have to put it C tier, I think, because it just doesn't provide a lot of value in team fights. I mean, it does, though, sometimes. I'm gonna leave it C for now, with a lot of potential to move it up to B. I think it's a good character, just maybe slightly underwhelming. Yeah. All right, Greedent, honestly, it's kind of A+ right now. Or A- rather. A- B+ range. It's good. It's the thing with Greedent is it's never really been a defender. It's always been just this sort of all-arounder speedster annoying thing. It's not really the best invader right now. That goes to Sableye, but it can still pull that off. Belch Covet is still really good. Still pretty unkillable. I don't know, the character's still fine. It's just I haven't seen it a lot recently, so I don't think I can put it on the same tier as something like Blastoise, which I'm seeing a lot of in my games. So yeah, I'm just gonna bump Greedent down just for the fact that I'm not seeing it as much, but I think it's still a pretty good character. Mamoswine, probably the best solo queue defender. Great early game, pretty good late game. Really, Mamoswine is just good all throughout the match. You're providing a lot of value to your team by freezing stuff. Its Unite move, while still bad, not the worst thing in the world. Very tanky. You do a lot of damage. It's a really good Pokemon. Love Mamoswine. Slowbro, I think, is also A tier. Probably the best defender competitively right now in 5-6, just because it has an amazing Unite move for team fights. Like Slowbro's Unite move, it cannot be understated how important it is to grab, you know, something like one of these three things and just have your whole team take it out. Like just taking out a carry is invaluable. And Slowbro's Unite move just kind of doesn't let anyone play the game, and that's really cool. So I'll put it there. Snorlax will be coming back into the meta in a big way very soon because of a certain little Cooper guy. But I do think Snorlax, if we're talking, you know, 5 stacks, it's probably A tier, but in solo queue / duo trio, I don't know, I think Snorlax is okay. Has a pretty good early game, very good bully early in lane. I'm knocking it down to B tier for a couple of reasons. Well, like I said, it does have a very good early game. Your lane bully early. Problem with Snorlax becomes what value to provide to your team in solo duos, because block is really the only good thing about this Pokemon's moveset. Block is overpowered, but heavy slime can be a burden sometimes. Like sometimes you just yeet yourself in and die before you can really get out, especially in solo duos. And like I said, if you're splitting hairs between competitive, it's up here, and solo queue, it's really bad. So I'm gonna leave it B. Don't play Flail. Don't play Flail. Flail is griefing. Stop it. It's fun. It's griefing. All right. Next up, we got our boy Tree. I love Tree. I'm putting it in A- B+. It's another very good solo queue carry. If you just need to play some sort of frontliner damage sponge, Tree's very good at that because you have great sustain, really good Unite move, and yeah, really good sustain, really good Unite move. Another Pokemon that's just good all throughout the game. You're putting out a lot of damage with this character. You're tanking a lot of hits. You're not dying. You're healing a ton. Like, yeah, Trevenant is just good. Is it, you know, great in 5 stacks? No. In fact, in 5 stacks, it's probably, you know, down here. But, you know, you move Crustle down, you move Greedent down. But I do think Trevenant very good in, you know, solo duo trio play. So I'll put it in A- B+. I just think the 3 that I have ahead of it are, you know, a little bit more consistent. All right, moving on to attackers. A9 is a Pokemon we've seen get played in the ACL a little bit. TTV messed around with it some. It's a Pokemon that can kind of just hold down a lane by itself while the rest of your team is either protecting an invade or invading themselves. Probably both, if we're being honest, because LOL Sableye. So yeah, it's a very self-sustaining Pokemon early on in that sort of gameplay. Other than that, though, it's just kind of mid. Like, you're pumping out a lot of damage and a lot of consistent damage. You don't have a great secure, though. And not amazing mobility. I think the character's fine, though. I'm willing to give it B tier. It might be closer to B+, but I don't know. There are a lot of good attackers in the game right now, so I'll be a little bit conservative and leave it there for now. Cinderace, I think Cinderace is a comfortable. I think it's Cinderace is tough, man, because Cinderace is still, it's always good, man. It just is. It just is good. It's close to A tier for me. I just don't think you see it enough to give it A tier, so I'll bump it down slightly to A minus, but it's still Cinderace. You're still pressing the A button and doing 1,000,000 damage. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Good Unite move, good mobility. Blaze Kick is broken. Its auto attacks are insane. Yeah, Cinderace is still Cinderace. Turns out. Cramorant. So at the time of recording, Cramorant got banned for UCS this weekend. As you guys are seeing this, I believe it's going to be going on today. So go check out some of your favorite streamers are probably playing in it. I will not, because no one will pick me up for a team. Not that I've actually tried looking for a team, but if you want to play in future UCS tournaments, hit me up. I'm very interested. Anyway, Cramorant is actually bugged. I don't know what the bug is, so I'm just going to go off how I perceive Cramorant, not knowing what the bug is that made it ban worthy. I think Cramorant is actually pretty underrated. I'm going to put it A minus B plus. Dive is actually really good mobility these days, which is hilarious to say. Surf Hurricane is a fun build, but you're not actually getting a lot done with it. It just was very weak, very avoidable, and just not enough damage to really justify. But you have good mobility on the other build. Strangely, a very solid Unite move. But yeah, I think Cramorant is pretty good. I'm willing to give it A minus B plus. Decidueye got a lot of flack for saying this character is better in lane than you think. And I'm just going to reiterate this. Decidueye is better in lane than you think. It's not bad. It's really, really not. Do you want to do it every game? No. Is it something you should go out of your way to play and grief your games trying to, get 6 stacks on Decidueye? Absolutely not. But is it a viable laner if you need some range and you need some secure on your team? Absolutely. Decidueye is pretty damn solid. Spirit Shackle is insane. Still, obviously the character needs a lot of help from its team. And if you don't have a good front line, you're useless. Like if you're playing Decidueye with, 3 attackers and some all-arounders and stuff, you're gonna die. But if you have a good front line and some supporters around Decidueye, it's a pretty good Pokemon. But you do need a lot of help, so I'm willing to give it B tier, but I do think Decidueye is pretty good. Decidueye is, I think, firmly a solid Pokemon. Spirit Shackle's insane. And again, this is another thing I reiterate every single time I do a tier list. Stop Unite moving objectives. Stop it. Stop it. Please get some damn help. Stop Unite moving objectives if you play Cinderace. All right, there's my 2 cents. I'm done. Okay, Delphox broken. Delphox is overpowered. I love Delphox. Probably my favorite character to play outside of Water Bear and Garchomp right now. I absolutely adore it. It's very, very, very strong, very powerful. Just has insane cooldown resets, and its Unite move is up every legitimately 30 seconds after you get it. Has probably the best mid to late game in the game right now, because you're just popping Unite every single fight. It's insane. Now the thing though, it comes back to, and what I want to talk about with this, or Delphox rather, is I don't want this character nerfed. I really don't. Obviously it needs a little bit of something. Maybe a slight tweak on the Mystical Fire resets could be cool, but I don't want too much other than the obvious Unite move charge needs to be tweaked. It needs to be nerfed. Like it needs to, I think it's something like 89 seconds without farming, which is still insane. I think you need to give it, what was the Pokemon? You nerf its Unite move charge. That's what it needs to be. Because at the end of the day, while Flame Charge is annoying, you have to aim your Mystical Fires to get resets on things, and there is a pretty high skill ceiling on hitting those. So I don't know. I guess, like, I don't know, it's not exactly the hardest thing in the world. Maybe it is for some Delphox players, but I don't know, man. I don't want this character ruined, because I do think it takes at least a little bit of skill to be good with. It's not like a character that just pilots for you and just plays the game itself. So yeah, I don't know. I think Delphox, well, very good and definitely overpowered. I don't think it needs too many tweaks to be pretty in line with a lot of the other things in the game, but it's definitely S tier and definitely very, very good, and I love it. All right, Dragapult. I think Dragapult is very underrated. I think it's a really good solo queue jungler. Not good in 5 stacks. It did get a little bit of play in tournaments, but I don't know. Phantom Force, bad. Shadow Ball, decent now after the patch. Dragon Dance, Dragon Breath, both still very good. Obviously, its Unite move spam is fun. It's pretty good to execute. I think it's on par with Cinder. I really do. I think it's on par with Cinder. I don't think it's better or worse necessarily, but I think it's a pretty good Pokemon. Dura. I think Duraludon is also still pretty good. All these ADCs are going to be in this weird little area. Actually, I'm bumping Duraludon down for one reason only. Flash Cannon is terrible, and literally 70% of the Duraludons I see in my games are Flash Cannon. Stop doing that. You're throwing games. Stop running Flash Cannon. Other than that, still a pretty good Unite move. Good at ripping raid. Pretty good at securing objectives, but horrible mobility after the Dragon Tail nerf. But not awful. Yeah, I said horrible, but not awful. It's one or the other idiot figured out. But it's a fine Pokemon. Just, I think it's pretty comparable to the Decidueye in that if you get caught, you're dead. So Espeon, I think Espeon's actually kind of underappreciated at the moment. But I don't think it's good at the same time. This is a tough one. This is a pretty tough one. Because it does... yeah. I don't know. Espeon's a weird one, man. I don't think it's probably not C tier. No, it's not C. Yeah, it is. I need an attacker in C tier. We gotta have an attacker in C tier, right? You gotta. No, we don't. I'll bump it up to B. It's fine. It's just there are a lot of other lane managers that do that sort of job better. Like, I'd rather have a Sylveon in lane. I'd obviously rather have a Mew. I'd rather have a Pikachu even because it's just more consistent stuns. And you know what? For that reason, I'm bumping it down to C. Just because I will just go ahead and talk about Pikachu here. You can put Pikachu in B tier because I don't think Pikachu's great right now. But what it has is a stun that you can consistently hit, be it Thunder or even Volt Tackle. So just because of that reason and that they fill a similar role to each other, I'm going to put Pikachu above Espeon. Espeon has more raw damage, I'll agree. But the thing with Espeon is you have to hit all of your Side Shock to stun something. And with Pikachu, you can just point, click, Volt Tackle, stun things. And that's more valuable to me. Worse Unite move than Pikachu. But yeah, like I said, more raw damage output. I think Star Power is bad. Future Sight and Psybeam are both decent. So yeah, is what it is. All right, Gardevoir. Gardevoir, I think, is actually pretty underrated right now. You guys are going to see a little treat here at the end. Finally got to it. If you know me, you know where that's going. I think Gardevoir is actually pretty slept on right now. It just pumps out a lot of damage. It has one of the weakest laning phases in the game, and it's competing with a lot of other better junglers for jungle. But if you are somehow able to get ahead on this character in lane, I think it can be pretty decent down there. The thing with Gardevoir is you're just pumping out so much just raw damage with great combos, great resets on both of its builds, Psyshock and Future Sight. You're just pumping out just a lot of damage. Psychic and Moonblast are both good. Moonblast is still one of the best stuns in the game. Pretty good Unite move. Problem with Gardevoir is it's very experience hungry, and it's also a Pokemon that if it gets caught out, it's just done. So yeah, there are some drawbacks to the character, but you are putting out a lot of damage on this mon. Glaceon, I'm willing to give Glaceon A tier. That might be a little bit high for it, but I do think the character does still have a lot of good things going for it. Its passive ability is still very strong, just making you invincible for a second. Snowcloak is one of the most annoying things in the game. It's like if Duraludon Heavy Metal were good. Wow, Duraludon Heavy Metal is good, but longer cooldown. That's probably not even true. It just feels like Glaceon's cooldown is up more. I'm sure it is. Who cares? That's not what we're talking about. Good Unite move. Icy Wind still does ridiculous damage. That's the main reason it's up here, is Icy Wind is just still insanely powerful. Icicle Spear is okay. Like it's just really strong. Pumps out just a ton of damage. Very strong. Grin, I'd say Grin is yeah, I'm gonna put Grin a step below Cinder and Dragon Bolt. That might be one of the harder takes on this list, but I don't think Greninja is very good right now. And maybe that's just going back to all the solo queue Grins in my games completely throwing, but what's new? Greninja solo queuers have been terrible since launch, and that's never going to change. But I think the big thing with Greninja is a lot of the stuff up here outside of, you know, the Scyther, Delphox, and Dodrio, everything up here is pretty damn tanky. You're not really able to get a lot of value out of just cleaning teams with Surf. And even the characters you are able to, you know, just one shot with Surf and get resets on, like Dodrio, Delphox, the squishier things up here, have better mobility than you. Like Delphox will just skate around you. Dodrio, you're not landing a good Surf on usually unless you land a fat Unite move on it, which is even harder. So I don't know. I don't think Greninja provides a lot of value right now, but it's still fine. Like you can still pop off with it. You can pop off with any character, but yeah, I think Greninja I think it's fair to put it a step below because, I don't know, Cinderace, better range, better mobility, better Unite move. Dragapult, just all around better mobility, better auto attacks, better Unite move. So yeah, I think that's fair. Decidueye, it's comparable. Like Greninja, you'll have more pop-off consistent damage games. Greninja or Decidueye, you have better secure. Groudon, same thing. Yeah, I think Greninja's closer to these two than it is to these two, personally. Mew is broken still. Yeah, it's S tier. Best lane attacker in the game, bar none. You just leave this thing in a lane and just spam all of your abilities and do a lot of damage. If you watch any of Unite Rivals or ACL, I don't know if Asia's playing it as much, but Mew is consistently dropping the most damage in games, and it really felt like, I don't know the stats on it, but Mew, the team with Mew had to have had like Mew probably had close to a 60 to 70% win rate in the tournament. It felt like whoever had Mew was, you know, just the better team. The character just provides just such great consistent damage, such great secure as well, with both Electro Ball and Solar Beam. It's just really solid, really consistent, really high damage output. So yeah, it'll go up there. Sylveon goes into the A-B+ range. The only bad thing about Sylveon is its Unite move. Everything else about the character's kit is pretty good. Probably the tankiest attacker outside of Venusaur, which I think is fair. Yeah, I mean, even then, I just talked about its Unite move being bad. Its Unite move does allow it to heal a crap load, which is a good thing. It has a lot of healing, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and honestly, guys, my tank build not that far off from some of the stuff I've been seeing. If you missed my tank Sylveon build, go check that out. It's Eos Cookie Potion with Buddy Berry or Focus Band. You don't die on that build, and I've seen some similar stuff being ran around other places. I've had a couple people tell me they tried it out in my streams, and I think I'm onto something with that build. Yeah, obviously you can also get away with like Rapid Fire Scarf Double Band. Mystical Fire is really good right now. Hyper Voice is still really good consistent damage in solo queue if you want to run that. I don't know, Sylveon is just a pretty good Pokemon. And then our last attacker is Venusaur. I know it's not played as much, but Venusaur is, I still think, one of the best solo queue carries in the entire game. Go Venu jungle and just get ahead and you will win a lot of games. Like, I love Venusaur. It is just great consistent damage, great Unite move, great sustain, great healing. Everything about Venusaur is great. It's a little bit rough in lane sometimes, but Petal Dance, Giga Drain, broken. Solar Beam's fine. I think everything about the character is really good, and I'm gonna stick firm into it being A tier. I think it's in 5 stacks it's probably pretty bad, but in solo duos I think it's phenomenal. One of the best characters to just slap a support next to and just win. Speaking of supports, let's go ahead and hop into these guys. And let me tell you, gonna be a lot of high tiers here. Starting off with Blissey. Blissey is broken. Blissey is overpowered. Safeguard's good. Eggs are good. Everything about the character is good. Blissey is still broken. Don't really need to talk about that one too much. It's S tier. It's overpowered. Clefable. I don't know if I'm quite ready to give Clefable A tier, and I could be very wrong about this very shortly, but I'm gonna be conservative and give it A-B+. I very easily think this character could be even A or even S tier, you know, this weekend after we see it played in tournaments. But actually it might have been banned. It might have a bug going on. If it's not, expect to see a lot of Clefable and expect it to do a absolute assload of healing. There's gonna be a lot of Death Ball going on. I will not be surprised if Death Ball, which if you don't know what that means, is basically just it's probably going to be something like 2 supports, so Blissey and Clef, with like T-Tar or Urshi or both, and like carry like Scyther or something like Mew for range, or even Delphox for range. Like, it's going to be double support, double all-rounder range, and that's going to be a thing. That is going to be a thing. Would not be surprised. I've already seen it a little bit. Some people have talked about it on Twitter. And even if it's not Blissey Clef, it's going to be Blissey Hoopa or something else. I think Death Ball is going to be a thing very soon. So be ready for that. We're entering, if you're familiar with Overwatch, we're entering our GOATS era of Pokemon Unite. Could be a thing. But yeah, Clefable, very good. Moonlight buff was massive. I think it's very strong. A lot of healing. It's Unite move. You get it a lot. If you get something good, you can do damage. You could be useful, but it's Unite move is just too much of an RNG thing. Oh, I didn't even talk about freaking Gravity. Gravity is so good. Gravity is unreal, the amount of stuns it provides now. And would you look at some of the top 5 things in S tier, 5 out of the 6 things in S tier, all have dashes. All Pokemon that rely on mobility. Even look down here. Very reliant on mobility. Very reliant on mobility. Some builds rely on mobility. Some builds rely on mobility. Some builds rely on mobility. Gravity is insane. Gravity counters a lot of things, and it's very, very, very good. Speaking of very good, Eldegoss is A tier, borderline S as well. Eldegoss is just ridiculous. Has great auto attacks, great shielding, great healing. Everything about the character is great. Eldegoss is phenomenal. One of my favorite supports to play. Love it. Hoopa. All right. So Hoopa got a lot of buffs. We lived in a Hoopa meta for so long on the last map, and then Hoopa got a lot of nerfs and became one of the worst characters in the game. Then they changed its Unite move timer, so you get your Unite move more often, and they changed how Hyperspace Hole works and how Phantom Force works, so you are able to use the holes more often. You heal quicker, and you no longer have to target anything with Phantom Force, so you can just use your holes more often for yourself, or whatever you need to do with Phantom Force is just better. Again, I don't want to overreact, but Hoopa's S, dude. Hoopa is just straight up S tier. It's phenomenal. It's really good. Already had really good auto attacks. One of the best Unite moves in the game still. Been saying a couple of tweaks and Hoopa would be back in a big way, and lo and behold, here we are. This might be a little bit of an overreaction, but I really don't think so. I think Hoopa's still phenomenal. Mr. Mime. It could still be S as well, but I'm going to give it A tier. I'm going to be cautious with it. They did nerf Power Swap, and Confusion's damage a little bit, but I still think it's really good. So the thing with Confusion is, or in Mime in general, is Confusion still does max damage when pushed into a wall or a barrier. And a lot of people, a lot of players in tournaments were running barrier anyway. So Power Swap, while good, not necessary. Mr. Mime isn't really played as a supporter, isn't really played as a healer. It's oftentimes played as a second defender or a second all-arounder. So, you know, you'll have like a Blissey or an Eldegoss on your team with a Mime. So your job is to literally just stun things. You still have a really good Unite move. Despite, I believe, also getting a damage nerf, it still, you know, prevents people from clicking their buttons, which is invaluable. So yeah, I think it's probably still good. Sableye. I think it's probably, yeah, I don't think it's S tier anymore. I've only played it a couple of times since it got nerfed, but it does feel ever so slightly more punishable, and that's all you could really ask for, is just a slightly more punishable Pokemon. I guess it's fine. Like, you still stun everything. Your passive is still incredibly broken. The fear is still incredibly broken. But if you stun it, it still goes into, I think it's probably still gonna be S tier, but I don't know. It got nerfed, and some people will probably be mad at me if I put it S, but so I'm gonna refrain from that. Next up, we have a Wigglytuff. I like Wiggly. I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely, well, okay, it was the worst support. It's definitely not good. It's another Pokemon that's just played as a defender. It's never ever played as a support because it doesn't heal. Provides good shielding. It does good crowd control with Cute Charm. The problem with it is if you're playing it as a defender, Mime just does everything in that role better, and there are other defenders that are better for that role. So Wiggly is just outclassed in that defender role, just by a lot of, like I said, other defenders and Mime itself. So well, I don't think it's bad. It's definitely, I can't justify putting it anywhere above B tier just because of the role it fills and everything else above it being able to fill that role better. So yeah, we'll go ahead and put it in good old B, but it's not bad. Good Unite move, which you get more often now. I think it's a pretty underrated Unite move. So for that reason, I'll give it B tier. And then last, well, not last Pokemon we will be ranking today is going to be Comfey. And yeah, not a surprise here. I think it's probably the worst release ever. This character is bad. This character is really not good. I get why they released it underpowered. I really do, because if you were healing like just ass loads right out of the gate on this character, people would be complaining that would be overpowered in another way. But I really don't think so, because the healing is so underwhelming. Like, the most I've seen done on it in any of the games I've played, and I've played for like a solid 4 to 5, 6 hours close to last night on release night, and oh, the night before, because you guys are watching this. The most I saw healed on it was 60k, and that was a game where it was basically death ball, like I was talking about earlier. Death ball versus death ball. So even then, you're healing significantly less than you would on even Eldegoss, So, not to mention something like Hoopa Clef or Blissey. So yeah, you're not really healing a ton on this character at all. I will say both Grass Knot and Magical Leaf feel pretty solid. I think its Unite move, a lot of people have been giving its Unite move flack, but I actually really like it because I've long been of the opinion that bushes are overpowered, and having a portable bush is pretty cool. Just being able to have your teammates walk into it and be untargetable by ranged characters. Obviously they can still skill shot into it, can be a thing. Or if, you know, something is just right there, if you walk into the bush, they no longer target your ally. That's pretty cool. I don't know. It does some weird things with targeting that could save some allies, and I do think that provides a lot of value. Other than that, though, the healing on this character is just plain abysmal. Sweet Kiss is maybe the worst move in the entire game. Sweet Kiss is a move that I do think at some point, and I do think with the Pokemon in general, that this character will be overpowered at some point in the future. Every character has its time in the sun. Every character has its time in the sunshine, whatever. Time to shine, that's what I'm looking for, the EU team. Where it's been broken at one point or another, and Comfey's time will come at some point. But yeah, there are things you can do with Sweet Kiss, but you need another support. You need an actual healer if you're gonna do that, and you need to be like on like two very specific areas. I think you can do something with like Garchomp with a T-Tar, probably good with it. Maybe one of the Urshifus or both the Urshifus, you could probably pull off something with Sweet Kiss, but even then, it's just not worth running. It's just really not. I'd rather just double pocket with like Blissey or Clef or something if you want to do that. Like, I don't think there's really any value in Comfey. I think it's bad. I think it's bad. And then last and certainly not least, this is a little bit of a troll. I'll admit, this is a little bit of maybe a hot take, but it's something I'm very passionate about. So our god tier, the most broken thing in Pokemon Unite, in my opinion, isn't a Pokemon. It's X-Speed. I think X-Speed is insanely broken. It acts as a get out of jail free card for bad players. It acts as basically a full heal to some extent as well. And yeah, it just, I don't know. I cannot count on the amount of times that bad players have gotten away with just frankly awful plays because of this item. I think X-Speed is the most broken thing in Unite. And I'm not gonna apologize for it. I'm not gonna, you know, change my mind about it. I think X-Speed is overpowered and it needs to be nerfed. So there's my opinion on that. And if you don't like it, tough. My tier list. X-Speed is overpowered and needs to be nerfed. That's the end of the video. Nerf X-Speed. This is now turned into nerf X-Speed propaganda. And I'm okay with that. But other than that, guys, though, let me know what you think. If I had to put one Pokemon in the S tier or in the God tier, who do I think is the most overpowered Mon in the game right now? It's probably Blissey. Probably. I don't know. It's Blissey or Urshi. One of those two. Could also be Scyther. The more I think about it, yeah, Scyther didn't get nerfed. It's Scyther. I'll put Scyther in God tier. There you go. I put a Pokemon in God tier with X-Speed, but X-Speed is better. But yeah, let me know what you think of the tier list in the comments down below. Let me know which take you think I got the most wrong, or which take you think I got the most right. I don't care. Let me know what you think. Catch you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.